All right, welcome into Stepping Up, presented by Federated Insurance. I'm Phil Mackey, and this is a podcast where we sit down with next generation business owners and leaders and talk about their process, the challenges they face, the history of their companies, their stories, and their vision for the future of business success. And on our episode today, we are actually happy to be joined by two different members of the Rihm family, Kari and JB Rihm from Rihm Kenworth, which for 90 years has specialized in the selling of commercial trucks and truck parts. We appreciate you both joining here to tell the story about your company and the future of your company.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'd love to just sort of start with, because your company was founded, and it's now fourth generation, if my math is correct, founded in 1932. And I would love to just hear from both of your perspectives. A 90-year-old company that grew up in the Great Depression. It saw World War II all the way through everything leading into 2023, and just sort of what it's like. I don't know if the gravity of having a company see that much of the world. I'd love just your perspectives from where you both sit, starting with Kari.
Well, I've always thought that it was interesting that the founder decided to start a company at the height of the Great Depression, but he had to feed his family. And he had been a dealer for the Ford Motor Company and conceived of putting together a new business that would sell over-the-road trucks and other road building equipment. So I think that out of his own experience as a dealer, but also his vision of what was going to happen when the economy healed and the United States began to grow in population and in industry post depression, that he decided that it was a good idea to start a new business. The transition from the first generation to the second generation was rather tumultuous. So Walter Rihm and his wife Doris were very mindful in the way that they created the opportunity for John Rihm to purchase the business from his parents and move it to the third generation. John Rihm, whom I'm referring to, was my husband and JV's father. And unfortunately, he passed away from brain cancer in 2010 before he had a chance to retire. And his plan and my plan too were to sell the business when he was ready to retire. And therefore, JB had never worked in the business. I had never worked in the business. And all of a sudden, reality struck, and I realized I owned it. And I needed to either figure it out or sell it. And I wasn't willing to sell it until I understood what the value of the business was.
Just because Kari inherited the business doesn't mean that the manufacturer will allow her to continue to run the business as the dealer principal. We are a franchise from Kenworth Truck Company. So Kari was tasked to come out to Seattle, Washington, where Kenworth Truck Company was headquartered, to make a several-hour presentation on why she should be the successor
No pressure.
to my father. Yeah. So Kari did everything right. And after that meeting, she was given the 3-year contract to take over the business. And then I left my career of about 8 years. I actually worked in the jewelry industry, worked for the largest retail jeweler in the world. And believe it or not, trucks and jewelry are not much different from each other.
Wow.
And I joined the company not knowing anything about trucks, but I knew a lot of the people who worked for us. At that time, we had about 80 employees and 3 locations. And I joined the company as a sales manager and worked my way up through that. Was interested. I kind of went back to some of the basic fundamentals of business with people that had joined our company. You know, what is an open-ended question? Some of the basic things that I had learned in school, and some of these sales reps would say, wow, that was the best training that you gave. And I'm like, well, that's the fundamentals, but realized that they had never learned that in their career. And then kind of fast forward, today we've got about 350 employees and about 13 locations when you add our dealership locations and our lease and rental facilities up.
Yeah. Are there, just going back through the generations, what are the main sort of business pillars or ethos that carry through from generation one all the way down? Are there rules that you follow within the company? Are there rallying cries? Are there any threads that go all the way through 90 years?
The company was founded on the golden rule. And to this day, we still talk about that and our core values and our core focus. We always look at ourselves when people say, how do you define your family? We define our family as we are a Kenworth truck dealer. Kenworth is the most premium brand in the market. That's part of our identity as a family because that's all I've ever known. It's mostly my sister's ever known, Kari's known. So we are a Kenworth truck dealer, but it's treating people, making sure you have the right people in the right seats, and following the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. And I think in anything that you do, whether it's an upset customer or a team member who leaves the organization voluntarily or involuntarily, you really go back and look at that. I also personally look at everything happens for a reason. It was a horrible thing to go through that my father passed away after about 3.5 months of brain cancer. But if he would have lived longer, we would have probably been forced to sell the organization. We had 80 employees, and my dad always said it was 80 families that we took care of. So I think you have to look at the positive things that happen out of bad situations.
If you could sit here now and let's say you're both teaching a class to next generation business leaders, business owners, maybe they're at some point getting ready to take over a family company. What are the number one or number two pieces of advice, just sort of broadly or specifically, that you would offer someone in that situation?
I think it is surround yourself around advisors that you trust. There's going to be a lot of people out there that have their best interests, not the best interests for the family. So make sure you find a group of advisors that you can really trust and are looking out for the family. And then I think the key is that we've really learned too is to be transparent about your estate plan. Kari often talks about having a plan B. We're amazed even with our own team members. Next year, we're going to focus on four pillars, I guess you could phrase it as that way, is financial health, legal health, mental health, and physical well-being. And I'm amazed at how many people make good livings with us, but don't have an estate plan or even a will. And they could be in their 20s and 30s, but they still have assets. So be transparent, especially in family business. I've sat through a variety of different seminars and know different families that everything is held underneath the founder or the current ownership, and that person ends up unexpectedly passing away or does pass away due to age or a variety of other reasons, and it breaks up the entire family because the family doesn't know what the vision is and the estate plan is. So that's a big focus that we really try and educate people on: is know the value of your company and know the importance of having the right people and making sure that you communicate it.
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought up just the whole estate planning uh, process, because when you are the owner of a business, it's different than being the employee of somebody else's business or a publicly held business. You have the responsibility of making certain that it remains healthy, and it falls on you personally. In a very odd way, I recognize that I'm the owner, but I also oftentimes refer to myself as the placeholder for generation three. So I feel like I'm the steward of this business to transfer to the next generation.
Yeah. I have one last thing for you. This has been just great, just getting to know your family and business history, and I want to end on sort of I guess a fun high note question. What is your favorite part about working in the industry that you work in? Working in the commercial trucking industry. What about that industry puts a smile on your face every day?
Well, my favorite aspect is everything that you touch, whether it's medical, um, building supplies, food, you name it, everything comes from trucks. And I think a lot of people have this mindset that it's a dirty industry. A lot of the engines that are in trucks today are cleaner than lawnmowers. It's a really great industry. It's an essential industry for the entire world's economy. If it wasn't for trucks and truck dealers and truck drivers and anybody who's in the trucking industry, we wouldn't have what we have today.
Yeah, my grandfather from about the late 1940s through probably the early 90s drove a Kenworth. Uh,
Nice.
mostly Kenworths across Wisconsin and the Midwest and all across that region. So We come from a truck driving family, and I think everything you both just said about just think about the logistics of how our country operates, and pretty much everything on our screens here, pretty much everything in your life was transported thanks to companies like yours. So
Well, anytime you want to come and drive a truck or ride in a truck or come and see a
let's do
dealership,
it.
let us know.
Love it. Love it. JB and Kari, thank you so much for joining us here on Stepping Up, presented by Federated Insurance. We appreciate you joining us.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.